the problem that's happened that I've seen over the last 15 years is that entrepreneurship has become too trendy. And now everyone's trying to think that their kid should be an entrepreneur. It should be no different than being a lawyer or an engineer or an architect or a doctor or a dancer or a hockey player. You've got to really love that and be really good at that for you to go and do that. And I think 97% of the people would be horrible as entrepreneurs. So maybe we can give them some entrepreneurial skills, but let them go work for entrepreneurial companies. Maybe they can be freelancers for lots of businesses, but don't go start your own company.
Welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. My name is Chris Kiefer, and today I am joined by the one and only Cameron Herold. And this is a unique episode because we've had some pretty exciting guests in the past, but this one in particular for me is 7 years in the making. About 7 years ago, I recorded a video of the 10 people that I was going to meet in the next 10 years. And Cameron Herold was on my list. I can't remember. I should have looked this up beforehand. I think you're number 4, so hopefully you're not too offended by that. But anyways, here we are. And I'm super, super excited for this. And it is mind-boggling the number of things that I was doing at the time and my aspirations in entrepreneurship and how that's evolved. But I knew 7 years ago, like I was going to find a way to have these interactions take place at some point in the future. And it's right in line with everything that Cameron Herold teaches and talks about in his various books. But without further ado, Cameron, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Hey, Chris, you're so welcome. Glad to be here and really looking forward to the conversation.
So what I wanted to do is start off with this TED Talk that I saw that you were talking about raising entrepreneurial kids.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I have 4 kids, and I feel like my wife and I joke that the most common thing we tell all of our friends, like the biggest number one piece of advice we give everybody is quit your job.
Yeah.
It just go start a company or do something. But people are very afraid of that. And I loved in the talk, just that someone was talking about 10, 15 years ago, almost, how do we impact kids at an early age? So I'd love for you to talk about that or the origin of that.
Yeah, so the origin of that was one of the very first TEDx talks that was given. And in fact, Simon Sinek was at my home in Vancouver, Canada, and we were talking, and he was going to be doing a TEDx talk in Puget Sound, Seattle, right around the same time I was going to be doing mine in Edmonton, Canada. And we were brainstorming on what our talks would be around. His was going to be about the golden circles and the Start With My movement a couple of years before his book was going to come out. He'd been on our board of advisors 4 years before, so we were friends. And then I was trying to think about what I was going to talk about. And I wanted to talk about this vivid vision concept. And he goes, no, it's got to be this kind of like something that's deeper, that's burning, that pisses you off. You don't have to tie it to business. And in fact, he wasn't even tying his to business. He didn't have a book. He was passionate about this idea of starting with why. And I was really frustrated with the Canadian and US and probably frankly the global school system and how entrepreneurs were, in my mind, discriminated against and emotionally abused by the schools. So as a kid growing up in the 70s and early 80s in school, entrepreneurship was not cool. Entrepreneurship was vilified. We were greedy. We were capitalists. Even inside of our own families, entrepreneurship was not a cool thing. It wasn't until 1997 or 98 with the rise of the first .com era, again, pre-social media, but the media started to talk about entrepreneurs as being cool. And then some of these entrepreneurs started to make a lot of money and it became cool. And the rise out till about 2007, 2008, as social media was starting, that led the explosion of entrepreneurship being kind of a neat thing. But prior to that, school systems told entrepreneurs to sit still and pay attention and focus and study hard and stop running all these little side businesses. But I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And I think there was something in me that wanted to say, find the entrepreneurial kids and teach them to be entrepreneurs, and find the entrepreneurial traits and teach others to have entrepreneurial traits. The problem that's happened that I've seen over the last 15 years is that entrepreneurship has become too trendy. And now everyone's trying to think that their kid should be an entrepreneur. It should be no different than being a lawyer or an engineer or an architect or a doctor or a dancer or a hockey player. You've got to really love that and be really good at that for you to go and do that. And I think 97% of the people would be horrible as entrepreneurs. So maybe we can give them some entrepreneurial skills, but let them go work for entrepreneurial companies. Maybe they can be freelancers for lots of businesses, but Don't go start your own company. So my journey that I kind of chronicled in it's called Let's Raise Kids to Be Entrepreneurs. It's still on the main TED website. We talked about how I was grown up in an entrepreneurial family, how my dad groomed my brother and my sister and myself to all be entrepreneurs. And then it's a lot of the systems and learnings that I got from that I think people can take to helping their kids be more entrepreneurial. So it's a long answer to
And
a fairly direct
you would
question.
still say that like with your kids, you made this video 15 years ago. You had kids at the time. I don't remember. I think you said 7 and 9.
Yeah, the time
So,
they were 7 and 9 at the time. Exactly right.
and how has that, like, if you could go back, because I have my oldest is 7 right now, and I actually showed her the video yesterday. I was like, "Hey, Ellie, watch this." So, like, does it spark any ideas on, like, collecting coat hangers or finding toys to sell and things like that? But I'm curious, like, with your own kids, because when I am an entrepreneur through and through, and I want for my kids on one level to be an entrepreneur, but I also want them to just be whatever they want to be, right? And so, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying we can encourage the trait and skill building in entrepreneurship at an early age, and as opposed to just assuming that they need to only learn, traditional skills. Is that right?
From what I've noticed, and I started coaching entrepreneurs in 1989. Coaching didn't become a thing until 1993 when Coach U and International Federation of Coaches started certifying people in business and life coaching. That was 1993. From 89 to 93, I'd coached 120 entrepreneurs. So I had been in the coaching and behind the scenes with entrepreneurs for 30 years. Entrepreneurs have a DNA, they have a makeup, a personality profile that is very different from the normal human. Most entrepreneurs are on the spectrum for bipolar disorder, meaning that they have very high manic stages and strong, stressful, depressing downs. And that roller coaster can be every hour or over the course of a day or a week, but we ride it more than the normal human does. Many entrepreneurs are ADD, and that's actually not a problem. It allows us to see everything that's happening out there. And then many entrepreneurs are already strong leaders when they're young, and they're kind of the wheel deal hustler, figuring stuff out people. If the person or the human is not predisposed to have those traits, they're probably not going to have the predisposed traits to be successful in business. One of the things that the venture capital community is finding right now is that kids who did very well in school, kids that were the straight A students and always did really, really well and didn't struggle with ADD and bipolar, are making horrible entrepreneurs. They're good at coming up with ideas, they're articulate, and they can get people to invest, but they suck at the ability to see everything, prioritize quickly, make decisions quickly. They often get bogged down in perfectionism and trying to model everything out with pivot tables, whereas entrepreneurs need to see it and go and act and kind of fly the plane and build the plane at the same time. And then when we hit adversity, because as entrepreneurs and kids in school that struggled so much and got crappy grades, we're used to adversity. We're used to failing constantly. But the kid who got straight A's all the way through school, the first time they fail, they panic and seize out. For me, I'm like, I'm so fucking used to failure. I never got more than I only got one A on a single university paper in my entire time. Like, I was horrible in school. So I'm used to failure. Failure is a part of how you move forward. When I hear a no, the only time, and I teach my kids this, the only time no means no is in the bedroom. Anytime you hear no after that means you're not explaining yourself properly. You got to handle the rejection, move around, be tenacious, go like try a different way. Cold call 74 more times because the 75th person's going to say yes. Those are all leadership traits and entrepreneurship traits that we can groom in our kids. But I wouldn't try to make someone who doesn't already have a lot of those traits an entrepreneur, right? I don't have any of the creative traits to be anything on the artist side. I've always sucked at art and creative. I can't sing. Like, my brain just doesn't work that way.
Hmm. Yeah, it's reminding me in college, this is memory came back in a history class that I had. It was just where I was a liberal arts school, so you had to take all these other things. But I was like, at the time, I'm just going to be an engineer, is what I thought. That was my degree. So I was like, I just need to I was taking it pass fail. So I ran the numbers on like my scores. So on the final exam, I went in and knew that if I had to answer, this one question, and then I taped a penny of Abraham Lincoln because it was a Civil War class to the test. And I finished the test, and it was like, people were there for 2 or 3 hours. I finished in like 10 minutes because I was like, I'm getting a pass or fail either way. And
Yeah.
this literally, like, it just doesn't affect. And there are other people that are so obsessed with the grade in areas that do not matter at all. And when you're in business, it doesn't do you any good to try to optimize everything. You have to pick, what are we going to be good at and what are we going to be bad at, and own. And that helps you identify your niche.
Well, and it's momentum creates momentum, right? Like the basic stuff is the more forward motion we have, forward motion will continue. So even if you're going to launch the iPhone, right? The features and functionality that are in the iPhone 14 were not there in version 7, version 3, version 1. They so you can constantly be making it better. But what happens to the perfectionist is they tend to try to make it perfect now, which delays it till later. The things that I like to help kids become more entrepreneurial: let them run the business, run your own damn business. Like, it drives me crazy when I see a kid running the lemonade stand that clearly their mom and dad made the freaking sign and built the stand, and mom's standing behind them waving cars in. That's not teaching your kid anything. In fact, it's hurting the kid's confidence because they know you're flagging in their friends and they feel stupid doing it. And they don't even like the sign because they wanted to do it slightly differently. And all they see is mommy makes a good sign. I'm clearly, you've destroyed their confidence. What I want you to do is let your kid make their own crappy sign, make your kid stand out at the end of the driveway. When they come in 20 minutes later saying nobody's buying, coach them and send them back out to try and fail again, and they'll get better at it. But if you're out there doing it for them and building it for them, they're not learning anything. So all of the little business ventures that I had before I turned 17 allowed me to run my first business, my house painting business. When I was 20, I had 12 full-time employees for me, painting 6 houses concurrently. We painted 6 houses at a time. I was only 20 years old, but I'd learned how to handle objection, how to manage my time, how to cold call, how to sell, how to do pricing when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. Like I was doing negotiations on price with a dry cleaning company when I was 7. So if you, for real, I was negotiating with a dry cleaner on taking back coat hangers so they pay a recycling fee. He wanted to give me 2 cents a coat hanger. I wanted 3 cents a coat hanger. And I said, how about 2.5? And he laughed and he went, how old are you? And I said, 7. How about 2.5? And he went, fine, I'll give you 2.5 cents a coat hanger. This is crazy. I like somehow intuitively, I knew that no didn't mean no. And I knew that until he said F off, or I'm certainly not, like that 3 was still an option or somewhere in between might be. That's a lesson you can teach your kid, is by letting them to do that, right? So the skills that you want to teach kids to become more entrepreneurial are negotiation, leadership, right? Leading their friends, calling friends and organizing them, being the best scout or best cub or top girl guide or head of your church youth group, whatever. Encourage your kids to take on these early leadership roles because they learn about managing people. They learn about discussion. They learn about conflict. They learn about communication. They learn about collaboration. Teach your kids how to sell. Like, let your kids go door to door. Trust me, no one going door to door in your neighborhood is going to hurt your kid. Like, let them go door to door in your neighborhood. You can stand six houses away and watch if you need to. Let your kid try cold calling and handle rejection. Let them start a business and run it for 2 days. It doesn't need to have a website and business cards and all this stupid, crazy shit. Run your own business, right? It's all these little things that add up into confidence and little micro skills.
I was just thinking with the cold calling piece. So right around the time that I made the video that mentioned you, we had this software, and I would wake up every day, and my goal was to call 50 dentists, is the target that we had at the time.
Yeah,
50 dentists every day. And I would start, because we were Pacific, so I'd go East Coast at 5 a.m., start calling at 8 a.m. Eastern. And then as like the time zones changed, I would call back across the US basically. But
sure.
I did that for probably 6 months. And I even had my brother, who was 7 years younger than me at the time, still 7 years younger than me at the time, but he started helping me with this, and now he's in lumber sales. And I feel like cold calling in particular is super valuable. The idea of a kid doing it is interesting to me, because where does someone learn that I should feel awkward or embarrassed when someone hangs up on me?
Our job as a leader is to grow people. So our job as a CEO or an entrepreneur is to grow our first managers. Our job as managers is to grow our direct reports. Our job as a parent is to grow the skills and the confidence and the connections of our kids so they can move out of the house and go get a job and run their own house and have a a spouse or a partner and make babies. Like, our job is to get them out of the freaking house, not to keep them at home forever. So you have to constantly grow those people's skills. So if you know that one of the skills is rejection is okay, right? Again, that no only means no in the bedroom. It's why a marketer is terrible at doing sales, because as soon as they say no, they run away. But a salesperson's like, heck, I know the person lives there. He just said no to me. Like, I can get him tomorrow when he's in a better mood, or when he likes my shirt better, or when I open with a little bit better opener, or I bring him coffee. Like, we just figure it out, right? Until somebody walks you off their property or says, F off, don't ever call me again, or I'm calling the police. That means no, right? But that's a salesperson mentality that I got from being 8 years old selling coat hangers or door license plate protectors door to door. When I was 10, I had a newspaper route. You go knock on doors trying to get people to subscribe to a newspaper. They've said no to that company for 30 years. They just don't want the damn paper.
Right.
So I kept knocking on doors because I knew what it meant to me, right?
Yeah.
Painting houses.
But that's what I'm saying is that the kids that, like, I remember the first cold call I ever made when I started my business 10 years ago. I was calling, I had a drone and I was trying to sell aerial photos to like different like or wineries, golf courses, things like that. Back before this is like drones were up and coming. And I remember someone hanging up on me and like trying, and I called back and was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I think the phone got disconnected," because they didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, they harass me or whatever and tell me to like hang up and not call them back or whatever, which is really weird. But my reaction was like, I literally felt like I was going to throw up initially.
Of course.
But then you work through that. But what I'm saying is that it's interesting now, I would say to someone that I'm coaching, like, man, that person must be having a rough day. Or maybe their boss just like yelled at them, or they're super stressed that they're missing their kid's thing. And the last thing they want to do today is talk to you. But that doesn't mean that they never want to talk to you, or it doesn't even mean that they don't like you. They don't even know you. You know what I'm saying? It's like all those reframing to the kid of like, they're not hanging up on you and telling you that you suck and you're never going to amount to anything. But that's how adults take it, I feel like.
Well, it's how any human takes something that no one has coached or trained them in, right? It's one of the or two of the modules in my Invest in Your Leaders course are related to coaching. Actually, four of them: coaching and growing people. So the coaching module, the one-on-one coachings meetings, the delegations module, and the classroom teaching module are all about how do you grow people and grow their skills and confidence to do more. One of the ways that we have to grow people better is we have to inspect what we expect, which means leaders need to get away from their computer and get out in the field or around the floor or over Zoom or whatever, but watch your team do their job, listen to them do their job, and inspect what you expect. You'll hear them talking to a customer. You'll be like, oh my gosh, don't say it that way. Say it this way. Well, don't get upset. That's your job to grow them. Or if they don't handle an objection well, that's your opportunity to coach them. Like, all of these things are opportunities to grow people. And if we would actually take our head out of our laptops and our head out of our phone and be more present with our people, it's like how we can grow our children. When you're around your kids, you observe them and you can give them confidence, you can praise them, you can show them how to improve what they're working on. You have to do the same with your team. You have to be cognizantly always looking on, how do I grow people?
So I want to pivot into the like your early, painting in particular, because a lot of the people that listen to this are in the painting industry. Tell me, so you said you were managing 12 people when you were 20, you're doing 6 houses at a time.
Yeah. So I grew up in a city called Ottawa, Canada, and I went to school there, for university. And I was walking through one of the buildings in the university and I found a flyer on the floor that said, earn $10,000 and run your own business. And I was throwing the flyer out and I stopped and read it. And the company was called College Pro Painters. And College Pro Painters was a franchise for university students to buy a house painting franchise. And then they would train us on how to run a business. So I tried it. And my dad, I had to sign a 67-page franchise agreement. My dad said, you know what, at your age, there's no better time in your life to go bankrupt, because if you fail, you can start again. You don't have anything to lose anyway. Go for it. And I'll help you and your mom will help. And like, you got this. You've been doing stuff like this your whole life. You're made for this. So I did it. I signed up and I was terrified and I was so scared of failing. In fact, this is kind of what people need to do if they're in coaching programs. Do what your coach tells you. Your coach isn't going to tell you something if it's not for the best for you. So don't question everything. If you're reading a book, do what the book tells you. I think so often we're like, oh, my industry's different or my business is different. I was so scared of failing that I did everything that was in the franchise manual. And sure enough, I was successful. So yeah, in that first summer, I painted 78 houses, and we painted 78 houses in uh, 13 weeks because we did it from May 1st till August 31st. So imagine in your first 4 months of business that you paint 78 homes. We were cranking, right? I was 20. So I learned how to run a business. I did that for 3 summers. In my third summer, we painted 148 houses in 4 months, which was crazy bonkers. My average job size was $780. So I was moving jobs every 2 days, 2 people per job site, 40-foot extension ladders, interior, exterior. I was doing all of it. And then I went and worked for the head office on how to recruit, hire, and train franchisees. And every year we had to recruit, hire, and train 800 new franchisees. And then in 4 months, they would hire 8,000 students to paint houses. And from May 1st till August 31st, we'd paint $64 million in houses. And then September 1st, all 8,800 kids would quit and go back to school. And the 30 of us at the top of the head office would go out and do it again. So that's where I really learned how to build companies and how to train people, recruit people, hire people, and grow them, was all at College Pro Painters. And then their sister company, which launched, I was actually offered the president role in 1989, is called Serta Pro Painters. And Serta Pro was a spinoff of the College Pro group, and they became kind of the big professional home services business.
So did you pursue the job at the corporate office, or
Yes.
did they say like, hey, we think you should consider this?
It was
Or
both. It was both. I was definitely earmarked very early on as a high achiever. I think I was in number 4 or 5 out of 360 franchisees in Canada. I ranked 4th or 5th. My sister went on to rank number 1 a few years after me. She did it as well. My brother did it too. All 3 of us ran franchises for them one summer, or for multiple summers.
And is it still, I don't know if there's
It just
any...
closed. It just closed last year after 50 years in business. The problem for them wasn't the lack of customers or brand or systems. It was that it's hard to find 800 university students that want to run house painting businesses when they can run internet businesses or develop a coin or do a cryptocurrency. Like, there's too many opportunities now for, if I was back 30 years ago, I wouldn't have started a house painting company. I'd be running something online, right? I would have launched some online business.
Yeah.
Like my 21-year-old is doing today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating because I'm immediately thinking, I'm curious, with your knack for like systems and processes. This is kind of getting into what we do for painting companies, but I don't know who or where I heard this, but people and processes scale businesses. So I always tell clients that are considering us, they think that the reason that they're not scaling is because they have the wrong software.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, software just removes friction. But if you have a really bad business, then you'll just spiral out of control faster with software. But if you have a really solid business with good people and good processes, now the software is just going to free your people up, and it's not going to take as long to do the mundane tasks that need to be done to run the business. And so I guess I'm curious, with like SOPs, I think this was in I don't remember which book it was of yours, but just like the simple is actually really hard to create.
Yeah.
But it's the simple that has to be created in order to scale. So I'm curious what you could say about process development and then what should be automated or what you shouldn't.
Yeah. So the systems, anytime you do something more than once, you should be able to create a system for that. So if you answer a phone, have a system for answering a phone. If you cold call, have a system for cold calling. If you knock on a customer's door, have a system for knocking on the customer's door. I'll tell you what our system was for knocking on the customer's door. We called it the 10-step estimate sell. So step 1 was the setup. That was the initial phone call where we set up the on-site meeting. Then it was the arrival and introduction. Well, in the setup, we said, we'll be there exactly at 5:00. As we park the van, we would look at the home from the curb, and we called it the curb. And we would look at the home and picture it finished, picture the home completely painted. So we had this amazing energy that we showed up at versus the crappy peeling house that we can see from the outside. And then the arrival intro, as they opened the door, we would point to our watch and we go, yep, I'm here exactly on time. We would remind them right at the door, because everybody we're competing against didn't tell them they're showing up on time, didn't remind them they're showing up on time, didn't show up in clean clothing, probably had a cigarette hanging out of their mouth. So all of our stuff was scripted and systemized. But I could write you the 10-step estimate sell on a Post-it note. I could tell you exactly how we did the system, and that's why we could outsell all the pros. I was outselling these 30-year house painting Italian guys with the best tradesmen in the world that could literally outpaint us on any home. I could land 30 to 40% more of the jobs that we'd both estimate because I could outsell them, and I could charge more than they were charging because I could outsell them because of the system. So the systems are important to have predictability, to have scale, and to be able to train people on doing it in a better way, in a faster way, and in a more predictable way.
And so the idea of the, people and processes scale businesses, um, obviously that's the processes, you need them to be simple. What advice do you have on like revising, editing, like creating the processes to begin with?
Sure. And I also have a mantra internally in all my company from Michael Gerber, and it's that people don't fail, systems fail, right? So anytime something goes wrong, it's because a process isn't in place or a process wasn't followed, which means the process isn't working, right? But you don't blame a person. You look for the underlying process and fix the process. What I like to do first, rather than where I'm going to put all the systems or processes, is can I write it on a Post-it note? If I can't document it on a small little piece of paper, I'm not thinking clearly enough. After I document it there, it can be in a Google Sheet or in a Google Doc, and it can be kind of this live, updated version of the system. Once you've used the system and you practice the system and you run with the system, then you can bring it into Process Street or Process.io or Trainual or Suite Process. You can put it into some software that can manage it and document it in a better way. But don't worry about how beautifully it's documented. Worry about how simply you've created it. So when we were building 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which became the largest, junk removal service in the world, we used to Bob-proof our system. So there was a franchisee who I love dearly. He was the very first franchise. His name is Bob Hartle. But Bob was a very average franchisee in a very tough market. He was in Buffalo. It was crappy weather in Buffalo. They get a lot of snow in the winter in Buffalo. After the first 20 franchises were awarded, Bob would have never been awarded a franchise because he didn't have the skill set that we then started looking for. So he was an average franchisee with average skills in a horrible market. I wanted to make sure that any system that we could use could be used by one of Bob's employees in February in Buffalo.
And that was
And if
that was the test.
that was Bob proofing, right? If I could Bob proof that system, then it could be used by the best franchisee with the best employee serving the repeat customer in San Francisco. That's easy, right? So that's how I do it as I think about Bob and Bob proofing everything.
And then, so for and you would say that the iteration of it is like, okay, start just what ultimately needs to happen. What are the simple steps?
Yeah, I like good being good enough, right? Like a good basic system is step one. And then if there's some upside, so by perfecting the system, like doing the second iteration or the third version of the system, is it going to help my employees be happier? Is it going to help my customers be happier? Is it going to drive more profit or gross margin, or is it going to grow revenue? If it's not going to do those things, then I'm not even going to do it. And then what's the return on time or investment of perfecting this system, right? Like how much upside am I going to get? Because there's some systems that if you work on those systems, you're going to have a much higher impact on profitability and customer and employee engagement, right? If you would train people how to sell and how to interact with the customers and how to show up on a job site and how to clean up a property and how to inspect, like if you would teach them the core stuff, all the other stuff takes care of itself. And I think so often, especially the technicians, the ones who are like the amazing painter, they're worried about stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be worried about. Like the customer's not pulling out the binoculars to look at the third floor soffit to see how perfect the cutting is. They're looking at the cutting and the brush marks on the front door. So just fucking nail the front door. Like literally nail the front door because everything else takes care of itself.
Yes. I'm curious like, because we are deep in software and software is like the thing that systemizes and makes it like a good software should make it Bob proof. So
Correct.
like Bob can hold it and be like,
and
click,
it takes people out of the equation, which increases gross margin, increases profitability, and makes people happy. So the systemization using software with the automation and optimization of work that needs to be done is amazing.
So what would be the like back then? I feel like that actually makes what you did with College Pro Painters even more impressive, that you would have been using
A pager.
I mean, yeah. Is it a
And
pager? Is
yeah,
that it?
it was a pager and a phone booth on the way to their job, which meant like, oh yeah, it was a pager. And it was like, I'll tell you how I showed up. I had a book, okay, like a physical binder. Like everybody, we know what binders are, right? Physical binder like this. It was yellow, College Pro colors, and it had 3 or 4 chapters. The initial chapter was about Cameron and College Pro. The second was a reference letter. It was actually a before photo and an after photo and a reference letter from every client that I'd done. And I started getting them from my first client. I got them from a bunch of clients. My sister, 5 years later, told the client at the time of the estimate, I'm not leaving your property until you give me a check, you give me a reference letter in writing, and you give me a hug. And if you're willing to sign up for that, I'll paint your house. And she got a reference letter from every single house she painted. She was landing 78% of the jobs that she was estimating and kept charging more because she had 200 reference letters and before and after photos. The customers didn't read them. It's like, fuck, this is cray cray. And she's estimating against Mario, who's the best Italian painter in Canada, who can outpaint.
Who wasn't
anything.
getting any documentation of that.
Mario's fucked, man. Mario was dead in the water because my sister crushed. And my sister's training on how to paint a house was 4 hours. But on sales and marketing and hiring and operations, it was fantastic. What we realized was it wasn't about painting. Even building 1-800-GOT-JUNK, I went out in the trucks on the first day and came back at lunchtime and started getting changed. And Brian, the CEO, said, what are you doing? It's only been half a day. I'm like, I know, I get it. It's not about junk removal. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, we pick stuff up, we put it in the truck, we throw it out at the dump. Building our business has nothing to do with junk removal. I get what we do. My son started working in the trucks at Got Junk 2 years ago when he was 19. He comes back at the end of his first day. He goes, this business has nothing to do with junk removal. It's all about customer engagement and how happy can you make the housewife? I'm like, you get it.
So I would say, like, from that sales, you said the sales training was 4 hours. That goes back to, I assume.
No, the painting of houses training was 4 hours.
Oh,
the sales training was more like 40 hours.
Okay. I was going to say, to be able to train someone in 4 hours, but even then, 40 hours of sales training, the key is always focusing on like the high value things that if you can get good at these 5 things, you're going to crush it. Like
if you can raise the energy of the customer, if you can tell them you're going to show up on time and show up on time, if you look professional, if you show up excited about how the house looks when it's completed, and you show them that you know your shit when you walk them around the home and you show them where you could stand or where you're going to putty, that's all you need. The pros think it's all about the technical and they forget that it's all about the relationship. And guess what? When you're painting houses, it is not about the husband. The husband thinks he's making the decision, but the wife is saying who's coming onto the property. All of your time and attention should be focused on building a connection and building rapport and liking the energy with that housewife, because she's going to say to her husband, yeah, the pros are great, but I want to hire these guys because I like them and I can trust them and I'm going to feel safe.
Yeah, that's good. So then on the shifting over to the people side, so we get the processes dialed in, you get, better at training and systemizing everything. What are the recommendations that you have? And I know you've built like some courses and stuff, so you can talk about that. But from the just like people build the business, right?
Yeah.
You gotta, if you build the people, then let them solve the problems and stop trying to solve them yourself.
So the problems here, the systems that are really missing for most companies, especially like most house painting businesses or painting businesses, because this includes commercial and industrial painting too. Most companies don't know what they're looking for. Right? They think they're hiring a painter. No, you're hiring somebody who can show up on time, deliver on their promises, can manage budgets, that they're goal oriented, so they're going to paint faster to chase down piece rate or bonuses, that they're really good at customer engagement, and that they like painting houses. Like most people don't wake up in the morning going, I want to be a house painter, right? So think about what you're hiring for and how to recruit those people. That's step one. Step two that most of them are missing is they've never had any training on how to do an interview. So they have no idea. Now they know how to screen to make sure the person can paint, right? Like anybody can take somebody onto a job site and show me how to cut a 4-pane glazed window and brush out a wood door. Great, you can paint, right? Show them how to extend a 40-foot ladder and walk up it with a bucket of primer and a brush. Okay, you can climb a ladder, you're comfortable on ladders. But they don't know how to interview for culture. They don't know how to interview for core values. They don't know how to interview for teamwork and collaboration. They don't know how to interview on like why they got fired from the last job or why they quit or, or how they like to be managed or led. So it's really giving some skill development to the project managers, the estimators, the managers, the owners on how to do job interviews is important. And then it's remembering that a lot of the onboarding of people is skipped in the blue collar work, right? We just hire the painter and we say, go paint houses. We forget that we want them indoctrinated in our culture. We want them proud of the business they're a part of building. We want them proud of a business that we've been building. So teach them about the history, teach them about your vivid vision, teach them about the core values of where you're taking the organization. Talk to like the difference between 1-800-GOT-JUNK and the 17,000 independent junk removal services that existed the day Brian started 1-800-GOT-JUNK. So he started, there were already 17,000 independent men with trucks. Was he decided to brand it and professionalize it and build a culture around garbage. Like it wasn't a sexy industry. So you have to decide to build a culture and indoctrinate every painter and every estimator and every project manager and every, whatever, indoctrinate them into your culture so that they feel like they're part of something bigger. And they're proud of wearing the brand on their back. They're proud of putting the signs out on the street. They're proud of cleaning up the job site. They engage with customers because they know that spins off into positive word of mouth or a happy customer at the end and a better reference letter, which gives to more work. You have to indoctrinate them in that and teach them about that and educate them in that. Don't just send them out to paint the house or do the estimate.
Is there like a 3 things for a painting business owner that's like, if you haven't done these 3 things, I would be shocked if you scale past wherever you're at right now? Like what's like the core, like you were saying for salespeople, the things you have to nail as a business owner, if you were to just bullet point them, what are those 3 to 5 things that are like essential? And now a quick word from our sponsor, which is Boolean Review. Boolean is a review software that my wife and I own, and we sell this software to home service businesses. So I know there are many different people that listen to this podcast, but if you know someone, an electrician, an HVAC business, a painting company, maybe a coffee stand, someone that is providing service to customers and get found online by customers, we would love to talk to them. This is a review software that is the highest converting review software in the home service space in particular. And if you're wondering what that means, if you have 100 clients in your business, the typical business gets between 1% to 2% of those customers. So for every 100, they would get 1 person or 2 people to leave them a review on Google. Other review softwares get between 3 and 5%, and the Boolean review software gets 20% of your customers to leave you Google reviews. And these are fantastic Google reviews with lots of words, keywords that are going to help with SEO, pictures, stories, the names of your employees. So if you want to learn more, check out booleanreview.com. And now back to the episode.
One is you're always be marketing, right? It's always be branding, always be like out there selling your business. And do you have branding and signage around every single job that you're doing, right? Everybody out here has seen the 1-800-GOT-JUNK trucks, right? We've all seen the big blue trucks driving around. I'm trying to see if I can find a photo of my college pro truck. But I had my vehicle back in 1989, in fact, 1986, was a yellow van with massive College Pro Painters logos on the side of it, because I was absolutely going to make sure that every man, woman, and child in Sudbury, Canada knew of College Pro. And then I made sure that I had signs on every job site. I made sure that I had a sign on the left edge and the right edge of the property of every job site. Like it's that kind of obsession with branding and marketing is step 1. Number 2 is I'll show you the picture. So if anybody watching, they can see this.
Oh yeah.
That's a pretty badass painting vehicle. Right?
In the 90s, that's nice.
That is bleeding edge 1989. That is like, that kid owns, like I owned it, man. I owned it. And I didn't know how to paint houses, but my painting vehicle looked better than any other house painting company or industrial painting company in the city. That's number 1. I would get physically upset if I saw another painting company sign on a property had I not had at least a chance to estimate it. I wanted everyone to at least call me for an estimate, which meant I had to be omnipresent with signage. So I cold called for sign locations. I paid gas stations by saying, I'll buy all my gas here if you let me put a sign on your corner all summer. I parked my vehicle a block or like 10 blocks from my house so that people would see it more. And I'd walk down to my vehicle in the morning so people would anything you can do to be completely omnipresent and branded in marketing. That's number one. Number two is remember that all the people that you're hiring are to be connecting with the customer. They have to be customer friendly, happy humans. They asked Herb Kelleher, the founder of Southwest Airlines, how do you get all your employees to be so happy? He said, we hire happy people. If you want to have happy, engaged customers, hire happy, engaged employees. You can't train a person to be happy on customer service. You just feel that energy in every interaction, in the interview, in the video that they submit to you, in the onsite. You just feel it. It's who they are. It's how they treat the person at the coffee shop. But if you're hiring a blue collar worker and expect them to put on a happy face, you are delusional. So that's number two, is hire those happy people who are connecting with customers. And I think number three is about saying no more often than we say yes. We have to be focused on the critical few things versus the important many things. We have to use our internal quick compass to say yes or no based on an ROI. How much people, time, and money am I going to put into something? What's the return on investment? Painting your vehicle and driving around your city is a very high ROI. It's a moving billboard 24 hours a day, right? Putting signs on every property is easy. So just I would do that. Focus on those critical few things.
Tell me if you would agree with this. This is something that when it comes to reporting and analytics, this is something that I've gotten a lot of arguments at my previous employer. I was a marketing director for a painting company before I then started the consulting company that I'm in now. But as far as lead sources go, they had 45, 50 lead sources, and it's like, I saw your truck or your signs, or there was a bunch of stuff that were all like branding related things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's like they were trying to track how many people came from the
Right.
sign versus the business card versus the polo shirt.
Yeah.
And so I said, can we just agree that this is good best practices for a professional business? Because we're not going to stop doing that.
Correct.
And then put all of those in brand, and then spend your energy tracking how much did my Google Ads money get me versus the stuff that's costing you money is different than like the one-time cost, to be a professional, because we're not going to decide all of a sudden, we're maybe not going to do yard signs anymore because it costs $2 or $3 a sign, and we're just trying to cut cost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. So there's the basic cost of entry stuff that has to happen for you to be in business and compete at a reasonable level. And that is branded signs, a branded vehicle, employees wearing clean shirts. I fired an employee. His name was Hugh Pasica, the summer of 1987, my second year as a franchisee, because he kept taking his shirt off on a property. And I said that it was all related to workers' comp and being on site. You know what it was about? I didn't want a freaking guy walking around a property shirtless. I wanted a branded t-shirt because I didn't want other housewives on the street saying, yeah, he's cute, but I want to have more professional on my property. So I was willing to fire somebody for that 34 years ago. So yeah, that's the basic cost of it. It's like a coffee shop that plays jazz and has food. If you're going to be a coffee shop, you better play jazz and have food. Otherwise, you're not a coffee shop. So those are the basic things, right? Clean furniture and good, happy employees. That's basic stuff. And then, yeah, there's the paid. You need to get the proper return on ad spend and the proper cash conversion cycle off your cost of acquisition for sure.
Right. So shifting into some wrap up.
By the way, I had a franchisee at 1-800-GOT-JUNK one time. He called me up and he said, I want the next big marketing thing. And I said, are you parking your trucks in high strategic, high visibility areas like we talk about called parketing? He goes, no, I'm not. I said, are you putting out lawn signs on the weekend starting at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock Friday when all the government workers have gone back and you pull them up Monday morning when they come back to work? No, I'm not doing that either. And are you doing the bingo? Are you putting out 5 flyers on one side of a house, 5 flyers on another, and 10 across the street for every job you do? He goes, no, I'm not doing that. I said, then I'm not giving you the fourth fucking tactic. Like, I'm not going to give you another marketing tactic when you're not doing the basic 3. So for anyone who's listening, for any house painting company on the planet, you should not spend a penny of marketing on paid, on SEO, on Google, on social, on email. You shouldn't spend a penny on that until all of your company vehicles are wrapped and painted, until you have multiple job site signs on every single property that look good, and until all of your employees are wearing sweatshirts and t-shirts with kind of 10-inch letters on their back, then and only then should you start talking about doing other marketing.
And what the sign thing, I was familiar with all the other stuff. You said putting signs out and picking them up Monday, Friday. What was that?
So this is guerrilla. And I'm a hustler, right? I was a 7-year-old entrepreneur. So I'm going to just do stuff. And there's under the freedom of speech laws, companies are allowed to put signs out. The government disagrees and says you can't do it. And they sometimes want to fine you. Those fines often always get cleared and you don't have to pay anything because under the freedom of speech, you have the right to post bills and put signs up. The hack around it is there's not a single government official in the world that's going to do anything about a sign placed illegally after Friday at 5 o'clock and before Monday at 8 in the morning, because they don't work on weekends and they don't do their job because they're not entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs never stop thinking about their business. Government officials turn it off. So what we do Friday at 5 o'clock is we put out about 30 or 40 signs in high strategic medians, corners, near schools, like put them out on public property. And then 8 o'clock Monday morning, go back and take them all down. You just do the same drive. You put them all up. You do the same drive to take them all down. Bob's your uncle, free marketing. Or you hire a 16-year-old kid and you let them do it. And it's easy. Now people say, well, what happens if a sign gets stolen? It's a $2 sign. You know, people are spending $3,000 a month for a billboard. You put out $23 signs at $60 over the course of a weekend. You're definitely going to get business from it. You do that every weekend of the year. And even if you lost all 30 signs in the weekend, it's still cheaper than doing paid search and Google and all the other stuff that people are spending money on.
And I think, were you the one that said you only see 1 out of every 3 ads that are placed in front of you?
Yeah. So there's something called the rule of 27. Yeah. So in marketing, there's the old adage that people need to see you 9 times before they take action. So 9 hits of marketing, whether it's 9 emails or 9 flyers, 9 cold calls before they decide to buy. Now, we're getting bombarded with marketing from everywhere. So you're probably only seeing the person's 1 out of every 3. Like if I post 3 things on Facebook, you might see 1. It's probably even less than that. So really you need to hit them 27 times so that they see you 9 times so that they take action once, which means we're often more sick of our marketing material than our customers are.
It's like the website. You are constantly like, oh, we need to redo our website.
No,
like,
you're the only one bored of your website.
You know? Exactly.
Do you know that College Pro painters in 50 years of business, they only redesigned the flyer 5 times? 5 different flyers in 50 years. And house painting companies are doing a new flyer every 3 weeks. Nobody's seen your first flyer. And even if they saw it, sit in the same flyer every 3 days over the course of a summer, you'll paint their house. I had a franchisee in Toronto, Canada. His name was Rob Gallagher, that had 1/3 of a zip code as his summer zip code that he had to do $70,000 in house painting. And he said his goal was to have every man, woman, or child in that 1/3 of a zip code not only know the name College Pro Painters, but know that Rob Gallagher was a franchisee. He crushed his goals, but he was knocking on doors 3 times, putting flyers out 3 times, putting door hangers out 3 times, parking his vehicle, signs everywhere, cold calling, but most painters won't do that, right? Most people want to sit behind their desk and place ads and spend money and think it's going to work.
So moving to some wrap-up questions. I always ask for 3 book recommendations. And these can be, obviously I'm going to list your books. I think you have 5 now. Is that right? 6. Yeah. So I'll list those in the show notes for everybody. Sure. You could rattle those off just so that we don't miss them. Yep. And I would like to get 3 other recommendations of, it could be your favorite all time or the most recent one or highly recommended or whatever.
I'll give, So my 6 books are Double Double, Free PR, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. I co-authored that with Hal Elrod, Vivid Vision, Double Double, and The Second in Command. For anybody who's listening, I would say the books that will have the most impact on your business will be Double Double and Vivid Vision, those 2.
And Double Double basically that's one of the ones I read. That's doubling your revenue in 3 years or less, right?
It's doubling your revenue, profit, and your free time in 3 years or less. So it's how to delegate more, get more done with less people. Yeah, it's all about growth. It's effectively all the systems that I use to scale 1-800-GOT-JUNK. These were ones that I learned at College Pro. The 3 books that I would recommend, one is Traction by Gino Wickman. I think it has really good, elegant, simple systems for any small to mid-sized company that you can use. As soon as you get past 100 employees, the systems start to break down a little bit, but sub 100, it's really good. The second one that I would talk about is The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's by Ben Horowitz. Really, really good stories and lessons around building a business in a wartime situation, like in a stagflation or a recession or inflationary times. Like these are different times than from 2010 till 2022 when everything was just going up. You've got to be a different kind of a leader in these next 2 years. So that one, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, is good. And then there's a really great book about Apple and Steve Jobs called Insanely Simple. And it talks about Jobs' obsession with simplicity and how he brought simple systems in. And there's 10 good core lessons that you can pull from that book that are absolutely applicable to any size company.
Awesome. And movie recommendation.
Movie recommendation, jeepers. I'll open up my Letterboxd app and I'll tell you what my most recent.
So I'll give you context while you're looking for it. And that's, I love movies, but I don't have time to watch movies. You know, I watch movie like maybe once a month, or if I'm lucky, my wife and I have a free evening.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that I never watch a terrible movie that was just a waste of time.
Right.
And you know, the popular ones that win the Oscars and the Grammys, whatever, like, yeah, we'll go see those. But the ones that are you know, the sleeper hits are I'm always like, ooh, that's a good one. I've never heard of that before. So
the Holdovers, the movie The Holdovers was freaking fantastic. It's about some kids who get stuck at a private school and they have to stay over the course of their school. But one that I think is a really fun, crazy, off the like different movie is called Derek Delgado's In and of Itself. Derek Delgado, Gaudio, In and of Itself. It's an unbelievable, based on a true story. And it's this guy who basically does this magic act, but the magic act even becomes the movie. And it's crazy. It's really strong.
These are 2 exactly like I was looking for. This is awesome.
Yeah. You'll like them both.
I'll tell you the rating. This is the engineering side of me. I always look at IMDb ratings, and if a movie's below a 7.3, I won't watch it unless someone wants to use their mulligan. So everyone in the world gets a mulligan to like recommend a sub 7.3.
Yeah.
You don't have to use either a mulligan on either one of those, because the Derek Delgado's an 8.2 and the Holdovers is a 7.9.
There you go.
I haven't heard of either of those. So I just added both of them to the watch list. So
no, it's really, really good. Is the movie Mulholland Drive on there? What's
it called? Mulholland
Drive.
There we go. 2001, 7.9.
Yeah, so this is one that you might watch and go, I don't know, man, that was just weird. But Mulholland Drive is a David Lynch, and it's freaking great.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, you added 3, and all like near 8, and this is why I love doing this, because it's like anytime you go to like movie recommendations or, you know, Netflix or whatever, it's just 90% crap.
Yeah.
And then you never know what to watch because it's always just marketing that's determining which one.
Well, I'll give you the best tip of the day then. Here's the best tip of the day. Download an app called Letterboxd. Letterboxd has the IMDb rating, the Red Tomatoes rating. It has Google reviews. It shows you which platform it's streamed on. So if it's like on Apple or Netflix or wherever, it shows you all of your friends' ratings on those movies. It shows you average ratings, length of time. It's freaking unbelievable. It even has trailers for them all.
Ooh,
yeah, it's an all-in-one.
What I've needed.
It's amazing. It's an all-in-one kind of movie, and you can even follow me on there, and you'll see all the movies that I've watched, what my ratings are, and yeah, it's pretty strong.
And then it gives you you can see it on these different platforms, or just go straight to it.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, okay, I want to watch, this David Delgado. Good, it's on Amazon. Boom. I don't waste time going, shit, it's not on Amazon. Is it on Apple? No, this just tells you.
That's awesome. Well, and then the last thing is just the invest in your leaders.
Right.
Give me your 60-second, like, who's this for? How do you get it? What would you recommend for people to try it out or whatever?
Well, I'm going to give you the analogy first of the two ladders. Every single person in our company that manages people is climbing up two 40-foot ladders right beside each other. Their left hand and left foot are climbing up the skills ladder, and their right hand and right foot are climbing up the confidence ladder. So they go up their skills, they raise their confidence, they go up the skills. Like, imagine climbing two 40-foot ladders right beside each other. If either of those ladders gets shaky, you freeze. And if you've got one foot on one ladder and one another, it gets kind of shaky, right? Our job is to grow their skills and grow their confidence and grow their skills and grow their confidence. So the Invest in Your Leaders course is the 12 core leadership skills that anybody in any company that manages people needs to be good at. And if you put them into that course, it grows their skills and their confidence, which allows you to delegate more to them, not have to manage them as tightly. They take on more responsibility because they feel confident. It's just a win-win for everybody. And these are the skills that I was trained in at College Pro Painters 35 years ago. The same skills that I trained Kimball Musk, Elon's younger brother, in 1993. And then when because he worked for me at College Pro Painters, as did his cousin who built Solar City. They were both trained in all these skills by me back in 1993.
That is awesome. I did not know that. They have a College Pro as well.
I hired Kimball Musk out of Queen's University in 1993.
That is fantastic. Have you, that's like, I don't know. I don't even know what he's up to. I feel like I saw a random.
Yeah, I still talk to him every year. He runs a chain of restaurants right now based out of Boulder called The Kitchen. But he's got a bunch of restaurants. Then he's also doing vertical farming. And then he's also does a lot on charity, and, he's on the board of Tesla and SpaceX.
That's awesome. So the invest.
Well, by the way, here's something funny. When his brother Elon wanted to build Zip2 before PayPal, it was Elon and Kimball building Zip2. The original round of money that they raised from their first venture bank, they had one employee. The banker did not want to invest in Elon because he'd never done anything and he dropped out of aeronautical engineering. I had to do a call with her investment bankers and explain all the College Pro Painters experience that Kimball had of running his house painting business for me. And that's why they invested. They wanted to raise 600 grand. Kimball called me that night. He's like, I don't know what you told them. I'm like, did I screw up? He goes, no, we wanted 600 grand and they gave us $3 million. That was in January of 95. 2.5 years later, they sold Zip2 for $318 million cash to Compaq. And that was because of his experience at running a business on the skills that I'm telling you are in my Invest in Your Leaders course. So
if you're wondering if there's any value here,
maybe
that's awesome. And it's investinyourleaders.com.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today, Cameron. This was super fun, and appreciate you letting, what do we call this? The providence of having a vivid vision and stating it and sharing it. So this was
you
awesome.
Crushed it. Thank you for reaching out. I sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. My name is Chris Kiefer, and my mission is to champion the relentless pursuit of purpose. And what that means to me is to be an example, a champion, someone that is in the trenches, working and showing and winning and trying and failing in how to pursue a deeper and more meaningful life with the people that I love, with my kids, with my friends, with our family, and also just be a champion and example of entrepreneurship and following my passion and doing what I believe I'm called to on this earth. And so if that inspires you in some way, please share this episode. If you want, like, subscribe, share, whatever, do all the stuff. It means the world to me to get this message and get these guests that I have out there. And if you're interested in any of the book recommendations or looking up other episodes, the movie list, you can visit my website, chriskiefer.com, for all the details on the show, and also check out the Boolean review software, as well as the Boolean automation consulting company that I own for home service businesses. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.